everybody, it's Ron Bass with another edition of the Ron Bass Show. Your source for inspiration, encouragement, and a whole lot of other good things too. Mr. Producer, Mr. Brent Atterbury, Mr. Marketing Guru, and our special guest, Mr. Coach E. This is Ephraim. He is a coach in our martial arts school, and he's got a whole lot of stuff to talk about today because he's been through a whole lot of stuff.
So it's Coach E.
Yeah, we call him Coach E because a lot of people can't pronounce Ephraim.
Oh,
Ephraim. Ephraim.
Oh.
How do you spell it?
Efrain.
Ephraim. That's right. Okay.
Well, that's easy to say.
Yeah.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
But people pronounce the Ephraim.
Yeah.
Ah.
Ephraim.
Well, guys, we've been gone for a couple weeks. Sorry about that. It's all my fault. I'll take the blame. But here we are. We're back again, and hopefully back on track for a weekly podcast. So I've got a lot of notes, but Ephraim is joining us today, so he's going to talk about a variety of different things. And first of all, tell us a little bit about you, where you came from, and how you finally arrived at where you're at now.
And in the martial arts world,
Well, no,
in
just
general.
in general.
Oh, in general.
You were born in,
Originally, I'm born from the Bronx, New York.
which is where my father was born, so we have a lot in common.
I'm from the Bronx, New York. I lived there all the way till I was 8, and then I moved to Puerto Rico. From Puerto Rico, I moved back to New York City until I was 16. Then I moved to Pennsylvania, and I lived in Pennsylvania for a while, for too long. I came to Missouri.
Well, wait, before you get into that
Yeah.
story, tell us what happened. Tell us about your life as a teenager and all the different crazy things you got into and how that all developed.
Oh man.
Because I like people to know the bad stuff and then how it turns into the good stuff. It's important. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people out there that are probably going through similar problems and need to know how to get out of those problems, get to a better place.
Yeah, as a teenager, I got involved with all my friends in the neighborhood. You know, we used to have a little clique. We hang out and we get into fights with other people, or anybody came over to our side and they didn't belong there, or they knew we didn't know who they were. We just beat them up.
Gangs.
Gangs and chase them out until we started getting into trouble and getting in trouble with the law and going to juvenile, etc. One of my biggest thing was my mom put me in boxing. So because I used to get bullied. And
You were bullied. It's hard to believe.
Yeah, I used to get bullied by the bigger kids, and I was a little different. You know, I looked different. I was really pale compared to my other friends.
I see.
And I
Made
spoke.
fun of you.
Yep, and I spoke English, and they didn't. So that was a big thing because when I was in Puerto Rico, that was huge. You came from New York. You know, oh, you come from New York, and so the girls would like you more because you speak English.
You were popular with the girls.
So kind of, yeah. I would think so.
That's why the big kids didn't like you.
That's probably part of the jealousy, yeah.
So I used to get bullied a lot and get punched all the time, you know. So
Wow.
People would pick and they'd be like, which one, the right or the left? And you'd be the left, and they're pow, and they're punch you in the
Wow.
face. So my mom put me in boxing, and it changed my world. And
How old were you?
I was about 13,
Wow.
and I just started punching people back. So and you looked at me wrong, I did the same thing you did to me. But I look for a reason. You know, I will say something back so they could come at me, so give me a reason to hit them. You know, but it didn't do me no good because all I did was get into trouble. And eventually I took what it was supposed to use for my protection,
Self-defense and
but
turned it
self-defense,
into-
and I turned it into a weapon where anybody who looked at me the wrong way, I would just punch them. You know, and I did that for many years, and it got me into a lot of problems, a lot of enemies. I became antisocial because of that.
Antisocial.
No, I became antisocial, which I think I am a little bit still.
I think you are a little bit smart.
I stay away from people just because I'm afraid what the person's gonna do.
You're afraid that that old person
Yeah.
might come back out.
It might come
the
back.
consequences would be horrible.
You've seen that already.
Yeah, I've seen that already. Yeah.
You know, and I don't. I
You
try
don't
to
want
have
to be
peace.
that guy.
I don't want to be that guy. I'm trying to, you know, as a coach now, I'm trying to help other people learn to defend themselves and be a better person, and try to push away from the situation, and they have to. You know, one thing I learned when I took Shaolin Kempo Kung Fu, which is Chinese boxing.
Chinese boxing.
Chinese boxing, and one thing they taught us that I learned later on with people, you know, when they salute in Chinese boxing, what is this for in Kung Fu? And what it is the fist represents the warrior, and the hand that covers the fist represents the tablet, which is diplomacy. So
Diplomacy.
I am willing to work with you, But if you choose violence, then the diplomat will move to the side and the warrior will come out. So I try to always use the diplomat if I can, just because I'm afraid what's going to happen.
It's not going to end well, is it?
It's not going to end well. I don't consider myself super trained, but
Well, I do.
I am
Very well trained.
very well
Very
trained
talented, yeah.
in a different area. So I learned that what my body could do, what I could do to somebody. So I try to reason with a person and help them out instead. You know, if I could be a better person every day, that's what I want to do.
So you got in a lot of trouble and you went to jail,
Oh yeah,
like more than once.
more than once.
And this was all through your teens and your 20s? And
Oh yeah, all the way from I started, I think at 14, you know, getting locked up to I was like 38, 30,
Wow.
30, 36. Wait,
So,
I can't think time because
Yes, I
I got
get it.
some brain damage too
yeah,
from getting hit and all that stuff.
you're getting
But
hits. Yeah.
16 years ago, I did my last 2 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
16 years ago.
So how did you finally learn the lesson that it wasn't worth it?
Well,
What changed your life at that point to where you haven't gone back and had that trouble again?
I got tired.
You just got tired.
I got tired.
You must have had some influence. You must have had some mentorship.
Well, my influence was standing on the church at probably 7, 8 a.m. in the morning on a December, and it was really, really cold outside, and my feet were wet because I just spent all night, you know, running around the streets, and I was really cold, and I had the option I think I had probably two. One was go back and take this guy who beat me, you know, tell me a dummy, you know, doing it for my money, and beat him up, but the car was standing around the corner, so I couldn't do it. Go back to prison or make a change in my life, and I decided to make a change by calling my brother.
Oh,
And he called my brother up, and I called my brother, he picked me up, and I went to help him out in a recovery home that they had.
wow.
And that right there took a complete turn in my life where I eventually, you know, I didn't want to go back out to the streets. I got married.
It's the train.
Yeah.
It's the train. That's an omen.
Yes. Remember,
What is the omen?
every time the train hits their horn,
It's the horn. It's symbolic of.
I forgot.
I know it's a positive thing.
Okay.
It represents a change.
Yeah.
It represents
Positive change.
Positive change. Just like what he went through was a very positive change. And sometimes these things happen, like he was saying, just you can't even explain why it happens, but when it does happen, it changed your whole life.
Yeah.
Literally.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
never looked back to that life.
You can.
Also, I understand you became an ordained minister.
I did. One time.
How did that happen?
Well, I was doing our outreach in my neighborhood that I came from. So I was going up there and talking to the people that were selling drugs and there was still on drugs and etc. And so I decided I wanted to start a church, and I decided to go on to the organization I was in and get my license to them, which was a long process, pretty much because they at first they didn't want to give me a license. Because I have many thoughts on it on why and everything else, but I pushed forward and I did get my license to them, and I opened a church that I was pastoring for quite a little bit there until I decided to move here to the state of Missouri.
You've been here for about 15 years?
I've been here now for, I think, 12 years now.
You've been in martial arts, what, 9 or 10 years already?
And I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 9.5 years. In November, I have 10 years.
10 years.
Started martial arts in 1988. So,
You've been in martial arts a long time, but Jiu-Jitsu for about almost 10 years.
Jiu-Jitsu has been my, this is what I like, what I enjoy the most.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. I enjoy it as well.
I like Jiu-Jitsu.
And by the way, Ephraim is one of my coaches. He coaches me as well. He's got a lot. He's a very talented guy, and he's taught me a lot. So it's exciting to be around. We talk about mentorship all the time. The old saying, you need to spend time with people that you most aspire to want to become like. So if you hang around people that are doing something better than you're doing, there's no way that you're not going to at least learn something. It's going to rub off.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree, sir?
Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu and I think church for me, I put them together. They kind of resemble the same thing. I have the same situation in church that I have in Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
with the buyers and the people that really want to learn and the people who think they know what they know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in between, plus the challenges of life, that life presents to you. Being in difficult situation, I don't know how to solve it, and sometimes I just want to act on it. And when I usually do, I will get in trouble. And Jiu-Jitsu applies the same principle for me, because when I'm rolling with somebody on sparring, and I find myself in a bad position where it's actually painful, and I'm about to get submitted, I had to relax myself and I had to think and wait for the right opportunity to make my move that I could escape the bad position. Or I'm getting choked, I had to find a way where I could actually start breathing and relax and control my breathing and find an escape. And so he applies the same thing that he applies to me in life. When I find myself in a bad situation that I want to react to it, I know if I react the way I want to react to it, I'm going to get myself in more trouble.
There's an old saying: "Stop and think before you act." And I think that kind of sums up what he's saying. That you have to take a deep breath before you respond, and think it through a little bit before you just do a quick knee-jerk reaction. That's what gets you in trouble, right?
Yep. It's got me in trouble many times.
I think that principle applies to a lot of life. A lot of life.
One thing I really am impressed about E is that he's been through so much, as he's just told you, in his life, and to be able to overcome that, when you spent that many years being one way, and to be able to overcome that and then become the other way, that's a powerful testament to this guy's discipline and determination. You can't put a price tag on something like that. So I say that to say this to the audience: if you're out there struggling and you've got either similar problems or just whatever problems that you've got, just remember this: everybody can improve. I'm not saying it's easy, and he'll tell you it's not easy, but it can happen, and it should happen, particularly if you want to get your life on track and have a successful life.
It does. Right now, I'm running a recovery home, and I have two guys right now.
How does that work when you say a recovery home? What is that?
Well, it's people that's been on drugs and alcohol and prison, and they just got out. They have nowhere to be.
Just got out.
Just got out.
Nowhere to go.
Or they've been on the street and they have nowhere to go, and they actually have a job and they have some income. We give them a place to stay. They have some rules they have to follow. Of course, they gotta stay sober, and we try to get them through in life. We encourage them. We help them.
So you have meetings with them.
I have meetings with them, and then they come to they'll come to my house on Saturdays for Bible studies. And we have other people that come through. I have other people from recovery, and they work in recovery.
Okay.
That comes through, so they have a support system. And they can also see that you can make it if you want to make it.
Yeah.
That you could be successful in life.
Not to be negative, but I always like to tell the truth. But I've read only 1 out of 10 people that get out of prison. 1 out of 10 addicts stay sober. That's a very horrible percent.
Right,
10% make it,
Mm-hmm.
and 90% go back to addiction. That's horrible, but it's a true statement.
Well, because the prison system doesn't offer anything. They don't. I mean, the prison system is designed to recycle.
That's it.
To recycle. When you go in there, people think that that the inmates are bad, right? And people there, they're already locked up. They just want to be in peace. And then you have the system against them. Where you have the correctional officers constantly harassing and talking down on you, and coming into your cell and destroying everything. And they do a lot of things that people don't know. As long as you've been in the inside, you will know what they do to you. And how they instigate.
Your anger as well, doesn't it?
And of course, they make you angry. You're already locked up and miserable. And then you have these people who are designed to make you more miserable because they have nothing else better to do.
Wow.
And a lot of them are bullies. They have no life in the street, and they come in there so they can have authority, and then they make your life miserable. So they make people react. So the cycle continues. People just get rebellious and they get angry.
So when they get out, they're even more angry than ever.
They never accomplished nothing. There was many times that I wanted to do computers, and I wanted to learn computers and typing, and I couldn't go into the school because my level was high, or my level didn't fit.
It wasn't a good fit, according to them.
According to them, I want to get an education, but I'm not allowed to just because I'm a level 4 or whatever it is. And then you have the COs who see you going to school and they harass you and pat you down and for anything. So sometimes it's just the dumbest thing. You got an extra banana in your pocket, so they want to give you a write-up now for taking an unauthorized item from the kitchen. Like these little things they designed is really stupid. you know, and next thing you know, you lost your job, now you can't go back to school. So whatever progress you had, you lost it. So, you know, you get to that point that you say, I don't care. I'm just gonna max out, I'm gonna do this, and now I don't care. Now I'm just gonna go out. You know, and it's sad.
It's sad.
It is sad.
It's reality.
It's reality.
So the reality is, if you get in trouble, don't go back to get in trouble again.
Don't
Straighten
go
up
back.
as quick as you
Yep.
can and go straight and sober as quick as you can.
Learn from the experience.
Is that a first statement?
Learn from the experience, you know? I mean, you know that you're gonna go back how the system is designed. You know, so you gotta think that you should use that to say, you know, I don't wanna go back in there. You know, I mean, really. I mean, I know people say don't commit the crime, you know, and don't do the time, but I mean.
Well, it's like jujitsu when they say, well, how do I get out of this, coach?
Yeah.
And the coach will say, you shouldn't have got there to start with.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is, though.
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn, yeah. Brent, you got anything to contribute to this?
No, I'm just glad there's people like you out there fighting for the people that don't know what to do and don't have a solution and don't have a beacon of light. So I'm glad there's people like you out there that give people hope and give them a path to get back on track.
I was thinking about the Marine Corps motto or creed the other day: adapt, overcome, and improvise. That's so appropriate, and it so applies to everything in life. But the Marines are something else, man. Those guys were, in fact, one of our other coaches, he's a Marine. Adapt, overcome, and improvise. That's powerful, man. You get in trouble, you're down and out.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life.
You know,
Right.
You're presented with situations and challenges every single month, week, maybe day, and you have to be able to sort through it and come up with solutions.
Here's a couple of interesting tidbits. They did a study on kissing. They said that kissing is considered good therapy. He said, duh, I guess, huh? Care about somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, huh? Breaking news there.
I'm not-
It depends who kisses
Yeah,
you.
that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
maybe you should open up a kissing business,
That'd be funny.
and then you would be offering positive therapy,
I like
right?
that, I like that.
Okay.
Here's something else that's interesting. They said that this study was done. They said that if you exercise 18 minutes a day, that you're ahead of 95% of the world. That means you're in the 5% group. That's just 18 minutes a day.
Yeah.
They also said that even if you smoke and drink and you exercise, you will still live longer than the person that doesn't smoke and drink who doesn't exercise.
Who doesn't
Who
smoke
doesn't-
and drink
Right.
and doesn't
You'll
exercise.
still live longer than that person.
So
Exercise, exercise, exercise,
people that
exercise,
smoke and
exercise.
drink think all I got to do is exercise and keep
Well,
smoking and drinking.
It's
and then
better.
it's all fine,
it's,
right?
They still do better than the person. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Unless you are a alcoholic to drink a lot of hard liquor, then you're still doomed to get cirrhosis.
Well, for
Right,
real.
yeah. Yeah. No, I used to know a guy that used to run. Man, he could run over that on the track over and over and over. And he would grab a cigarette and smoke a cigarette as he ran. You know? And he outrun anybody in the track.
Well-
I was smoking.
Well, I can relate to that a little bit. I started running in college at 18. I was still smoking cigarettes. I started at 13, and I ran all the way up until I quit smoking at 31, and I still smoked and ran. But even all these years later, I can still feel it in my lungs. They never completely healed, in my opinion. They say you'll heal. I don't think you heal 100%. It's my opinion. So, if you're smoking, quit smoking. If you're struggling to quit smoking, here's how I did it. I started drinking coffee because the caffeine gave me a little bit of a lift like the nicotine did. That was one. Number two, I started running more exercise, which gave me endorphins, which made me feel a little better, eased the stress. And number three, I ate a lot. So I gained about 50 pounds. I gained a lot of weight, but all that weight eventually left. The other thought is that you're going to suffer when you quit drugs or when you quit smoking, but you know what? It's worth the struggle. It's worth the suffering, because on the other side of all that, you're going to be a gazillion% better off. I promise you. I know from my own experience, because I used to do drugs and smoke. And after getting rid of all that, there's no comparison to how you're going to feel. And now later in life, because I exercise so much, it's amazing how much that will help you just in every part of your life. So, and I only speak from experience, so I'm not preaching, I'm just explaining from my perspective and how I live my life and how much it's helped me. Exercise, I don't care if it's just 18 minutes a day, but exercise.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think it's a good start. It's positive and it helps your body. It makes you feel better. So,
Well, there was a lady in Alabama that is 108 years old,
Wow.
and she says she keeps herself feeling young by drinking wine, eating dessert, and flirting with men with mustaches. So it's not exercise. So that's her
pretty good.
thing.
Wow.
That's her thing.
I bet a lot of that thing has to do with genetics, which is another subject that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Like in sports, I see a lot of very successful athletes, but they can blame it on hard work, and hard work's key, but I think genetics play a big role in everything in life, whether it's intelligence, whether it's physicality. I think sometimes you're just lucky that you're born with certain resources, and other people are less fortunate. But I think everybody has some powerful trait about them. I think, like in your case, it's marketing. Like in my case, it's public speaking. Like in his case, it's athleticism. I think like a musician, how does a guy? I was reading about who's I reading about today that was so powerful, so successful. Gosh darn it, he was like the most powerful guy in the world in his field, and it has to be genetics. When you're born with a certain ability, and you can run with that ability, it's incredible what you can accomplish. So I think people don't talk about genetics enough. Sometimes you just get lucky with something, but you got to work hard.
Yeah.
It's no good if you don't work hard and exercise the traits. Okay, so much for all that.
And you know how
How are we doing on
sometimes-
time, by the way?
It's 1:32. Oh yeah. No, we're doing good. We still got time.
Okay.
I did want to say.
What's the
you know
breaking?
how-
What's the breaking news? today?
Well, it was actually
Oh,
this
that was the breaking
Alabama
news.
woman, man. She's
Okay.
108. Come
That's
on. How many
impressive.
people you know that are
I
108?
don't know anybody.
And she's flirting with guys that have mustaches.
Mustaches.
So I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, we should wear mustaches.
maybe the other thing. It's international. Today is International Kitten Day. So if you have a cat, celebrate with your cat.
Yeah.
Be excited. Some people are cat people. Some people are not.
Yeah, I'm not a cat person.
I got 2 cats, but I'm not a cat
You do?
person.
Okay.
Let me tell you a cat story. So I have this weird feeling sometimes when I pull up to my home late at night, and there's a cat in the yard laying there. And then every once in a while there's a cat at my front door. And I always think to myself about reincarnation, like maybe that's, I know this sounds crazy, like maybe it's one of my family members has passed coming to see me. But I'm always hesitant to pet the animals because I'm never home. So I don't want to have an animal that counts on me because I'm not going to be somebody they can count on.
Yeah.
So I just kind of walk away and don't pay attention to the animal, but it's kind of sad. But
Now, if it was a girl laying,
if it was a
on
girl
your
laying there, I'd invite her home.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, what other exciting news have we got to talk about today? Oh, Alzheimer's. Now they have 2 new drugs. This is breaking news. And each drug, after studies, they say now can contribute up to 35 to 40%, gives you that much longer of not having the symptoms. So it's a tremendous progress. Now it's not curing, but it does delay and defer the symptoms up to 40% longer. That's pretty powerful when you think about how many people have dementia or Alzheimer's or that sort of a cognitive issue.
I think people, who exercise, they gotta eat healthy, and they're active in positive things, and we are more likely to be more healthy
Yes.
mentally and
Yes.
physically than
Yes.
pretty much than any other person on there.
And I've read studies about
like-
that, and
it's
they've
like
actually proved that.
exercising
that
your
exercise
brain.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
the
your brain.
Yeah,
yeah.
the brain
your body.
responds well to exercise.
What you eat has a lot to do with
As
it.
you get old, your brain shrinks, by the way, physically, and you do have less. You have more trouble remembering things. That's natural. But if you exercise, you can't stop it, but you can make it where it's not as bad. Same thing with physicality. When you're old, you don't have the quickness, you don't have the endurance as much as when you're young, but you can slow a lot of that down with exercise. It's different when you get old, but it's still better than if you didn't exercise by a mile. So I hate to preach. I know I preach a lot about exercise, but I'm telling you guys, I don't care if it's just 10 minutes a day. Today I did the Stairmaster and I got on the treadmill. and I walked 3/4 of a mile on the treadmill, and I did 20 minutes on the Stairmaster, which was like 60 floors or something. So if I can do it, you can do it. At my age, you guys, most of you guys up there are probably young. You can do anything if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
And be consistent. Don't just do it once in a while. At least 3 to 4 days a week you should exercise. I do it every day because that's just my thing.
You said most of you guys are young. Are you inferring that you're old?
Yes, I'm old.
Well, see, no, you're not. This lady here that's 108.
Well, you know what old is? They say old is 17 years older than you are is considered old.
Okay.
So if you're 50, 67 is old.
Okay.
If you're 70, 87 is old. Isn't it? That's crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
But that's the perception. That's the psychology. Here's a cool story. You ready for this?
Yes.
So I was reading this story about this guy that was in the business of. Well, at any rate, he was thinking about how to reinvent the pen, like the writing pen.
Oh, ink pen.
Yeah, and I guess back in the day, everything was like what you had the inkwell, and you would dip it, and then you would write, right?
Right.
So somehow or another, in the World War II period, like 1930, 1940 era, he I think was in Europe somewhere, and he invented this idea of he could somehow create an instrument that would keep the ink inside of it, and it would be like stay liquid, and you could have like a rolling pen. Well, it's a long story, and I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but the bottom line is he didn't do very well with this idea, and he wasn't successful. But one thing led to the next, and about 10 years into this process, or maybe 20, somebody else heard about him and invested some money in him, and he was able to finally get a patent, and then he started making these products, and his last name was something, or his last name was something Bic, and he shortened his name, and it became Bic Pens.
Wow.
And he was so all this became successful like in the 50s or something like that. Of course, now the rest is history. Bic.
Wow.
And they make more than pens. They make lighters and all kinds of stuff, right? But he was like a German or European guy.
Yeah.
But the point of the story I want to make is that he never gave up. Never give 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 up. So that's the moral of that story.
Yes. Good
Well,
story.
What do you think?
I like the
Should we
story.
close things out? Any last thoughts?
No, I appreciate you coming on
Yeah.
and visiting with us today and sharing your story and you know, again,
Very inspirational.
thank you for what you do and you know, not everybody, you know, you would think someone that is shy socially or introverted or doesn't want to speak or get out there much, you are doing it.
Mhm.
But you're doing it because you feel passionate about it, obviously, and you want to help people.
Yeah.
And he
So
does
that's-
every day.
That's awesome.
And his students love him.
And to help one person,
Is as if to have helped the whole world.
yes.
Any closing thoughts, sir?
Oh, yeah. And that thought, I had a pastor one time that he was talking, making a story about a guy that was walking by the shore. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. He's walking by the shore, and there's a lot of stars, stars, you know, on the ocean. I mean, on the seashore.
Yeah.
So he started walking, and he just started starfish. He started grabbing the starfish, and he started throwing them back into the ocean. And somebody's coming around and see him, and he said, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time." He says, "You can't possibly, you know, be able to throw all those sea stars back into the ocean." He said, "You ain't gonna make no difference." So he picked another one up, threw it into the ocean. He said it made a difference for that one. So, you know, I cannot make a difference in the whole world, but I can make a difference in somebody's life.
You're right.
And that's what
That's
matters.
a powerful thing.
Good for you. Good job.
Well said, sir. Well,
Yes.
guys, appreciate you listening, and just remember, if you don't give up, which is not something you should even consider, sooner or later, those stars are going to line up. So, until next time, just remember, always stay positive.